the weight of the unseen. It's a strange thing to carry. 19 years I've been carrying it, though I didn't know it was there for most of that time. It felt like the weight of life, the weight of responsibility, the weight of love for a family I built brick by brick, sweat by sweat, here in Maplewood Creek, a quiet corner of the American Midwest. I'm Ethan, late 30s, an HVAC technician by trade. I own a small business, just me and a couple of guys I hire for bigger jobs. It's honest work, hard work. Crawling under houses in the summer heat, freezing my fingers off on rooftops in January, breathing dust and grime, but it paid the bills. Most of them anyway. My day starts before the sun thinks about rising over the oak trees lining our street. 5 a.m. The old house groans around me. First the dogs, a German shepherd named Duke, loyal and high energy, and Bella, his younger, even more demanding GSD Malinois mix companion. They get their morning run in the fenced yard, a quick puzzle feeder to keep them busy while I get ready. Then it's lunches, 4 of them. Liam, my oldest, is 16, practically a man, but still needs a lunch packed for school. Maya, 14, Chloe Jr., 10, and Lily, 6. Each one a different set of preferences, different snacks. Water bottles filled, backpacks checked for forgotten homework or permission slips. School buses rumble through the neighborhood starting around 7. By the time they're gone, I'm already halfway through my day's prep. Chloe, my wife, usually sleeps until much later. She's been a stay-at-home mom since Liam was born. Her choice. We talked about it back then. Money was tight, sure, but she said it was best for the baby. And I agreed. Her health was more important. Over the years, the arrangement just stuck, and the responsibilities shifted, gradually, insidiously. I'd come home after a 10-hour day, physically drained, smelling of sweat and insulation, and find the house, not how I'd pictured a stay-at-home parent's day would look. Dinner often wasn't started. Homework wasn't checked. The house wasn't a disaster, not usually. We had robot vacuums, but it wasn't exactly managed. Chloe had her hobbies, embroidery, knitting, some kind of jewellery-making phase she was in now. She went to the gym, met friends for coffee or lunch in town. Her days seemed lighter than mine. Much lighter. I paid for everything. The mortgage on this old house, the property taxes that seemed to creep up every year, the utility bills, the health insurance, the car payments, groceries, enough to feed 6 people and 2 large dogs. Clothes, school supplies, sports equipment, summer camps, the occasional family trip that I scrimped and saved for. I even paid for a cleaning lady to come once a month because the basic upkeep wasn't getting done, and I couldn't keep up with everything on weekends after working all week. The tension had been building for a while. Like a pressure cooker with a faulty valve, slowly, silently, the strain was mounting. I felt it in my shoulders, my lower back, the constant hum of anxiety about making ends meet. And then came the argument that broke the seal. My brother David lives out in Colorado. We barely see each other, maybe once every couple of years. We'd planned this trip for months, a long weekend camping and fishing in the Rockies, just the 2 of us. A chance to breathe, to reconnect, to just be David and Ethan again, not dad and uncle, provider and supporter. I needed it, desperately. Then Chloe announced she wanted to go on a 2-week trip with her friends, somewhere sunny, expensive sounding, and she expected me to pay for it. The kicker? Her trip overlapped with my weekend with David. "You need to cancel your trip," she said, like it was obvious. "I need a break. I'm exhausted." Exhausted? The word hit me like a physical blow. I stood there, smelling of the crawl space I'd been in all day, looking at her, dressed in her gym clothes, holding a smoothie. "Exhausted?" I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. "Chloe, I work 10 hours a day, sometimes more. I get up before dawn, I make the kids' lunches, I help with homework. I make dinner most nights, I do the dishes, I walk the dogs, I pay for literally everything." The argument that followed was ugly. Words were thrown like stones. She accused me of not appreciating her, of thinking her job as a psalm was easy. She said I needed to help out more. That's when it spilled out, the truth I'd been pushing down for years. Help out more? I heard myself say, the wariness and resentment boiling over. What exactly is it you think I'm not helping with? What exactly is it you do all day that leaves you so exhausted you need a 2-week vacation that you expect me to pay for, while telling me I can't have 1 weekend with my own brother? She glared, her face hardening. "I manage the house." I raise the kids. I almost laughed. The robot vacuums manage the house more than you do. The kids are in school or activities from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I pick them up from their later activities because you don't like driving. I make their dinners. I do bath time. Liam helps with the younger one's homework. What exactly are you managing? The argument ended with her retreating upstairs, slamming doors. I sat on the couch, the silence heavy, the weight on my shoulders suddenly feeling crushing, unbearable. For the first time, I didn't just feel tired or frustrated. I felt completely, utterly, unfairly burdened, and a cold, hard suspicion began to form. What did she do all day? Where did she get money for her hobbies, her lunches out, her gym membership? I paid the bills, the mortgage, the groceries. There wasn't much left over. The argument didn't resolve anything, of course. The air in the house remained thick with unspoken accusations. I didn't back down on my trip. She didn't back down on hers. A few days later, I woke up not feeling well. A combination of stress, exhaustion, and maybe a touch of whatever bug was going around Maplewood Creek Elementary. I called my foreman, told him I needed a sick day. He was understanding. I planned to use the day to finally talk to Chloe, calmly if possible, about the imbalance, about my need for a break, about the financial strain. But the day didn't go as planned. She slept until almost noon. When she finally came downstairs, she looked surprised to see me. "What are you doing home?" she asked, not unkindly, but with a hint of annoyance. "Took a sick day," I mumbled, rubbing my temples. A headache was starting. Her first reaction wasn't concern. "But we need the money. You don't look that bad." The words stung. I just looked at her. She seemed to catch herself. "Oh, are you okay? Do you need anything?" "Just water," I said. We sat on the couch. I tried to start the conversation. "Chloe, we need to talk about—" Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes, and quickly got up. "Be right back," she said, heading into the kitchen. She stayed in there for 20 minutes, her voice low. When she came back, she didn't mention the conversation. "Want to go out for lunch?" she asked brightly. "I don't feel like going out," I said, my headache worsening. "We can make something here." "Ugh, I don't want to cook," she sighed, flopping back onto the couch. Duke and Bella were sitting by the pantry door, noses pointed at the chest freezer where their pre-stuffed Kongs were kept for mental stimulation. They'd been waiting patiently for 10 minutes. "Are you going to feed the dogs their lunch, Kongs?" I asked. She waved a dismissive hand. "Can you get it? My back hurts." "No," I said. She sat up, giving me a look. "What? Just get it." "No," I repeated firmly. "You can do it." She glared, but eventually, slowly, got up and went to the freezer. She gave them the Kongs, then came back and plopped down again. "Come on, let's go out," she badgered. "We could go shopping. You could get your nails done. We could just have a nice day." My head was pounding. "Chloe, I have a migraine coming on, and we need to talk, about our trips, about everything. We can talk later," she said, standing up. "I'm going to get ready." She disappeared upstairs. 40 minutes later, she came back down, dressed in makeup and a nice outfit. "If you're not taking me out, I'm going myself," she announced. I stood up. "Chloe, please, we need to talk now." She blew me a kiss from the doorway. "Later, honey. Don't wait up." And she was gone. She didn't even lock the door behind her. While she was out, simmering in frustration and a throbbing headache, I did something I'd been thinking about. I called the cleaning lady, Maria. She was a sweet woman, worked hard. I apologized, explained I had to cut expenses. She was very understanding. That was one bill gone. It felt small, but it was a start. A reclaiming of something I shouldn't have had to pay for in the first place if the partnership was balanced. Chloe came back around 8 p.m. The kids and I had already eaten the spaghetti I'd thrown together. "Where's dinner?" she asked, dropping her bag by the door. "We ate," I said. "Where's my dinner?" "You'll have to make something," I told her. She stared at me. "What? I can't cook." "There's plenty of food," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "You don't need to be Gordon Ramsay to heat up soup or make a sandwich." She huffed, grabbed her keys and left again. 30 minutes later, she was back, carrying a McDonald's bag and finishing a burger. This set off the younger kids who'd seen the Golden Arches bag. Lily, my youngest, saw the empty McFlurry cup in the bag. "Mommy, why didn't you bring me ice cream?" she asked, her lip trembling. Chloe didn't miss a beat. "Daddy said I wasn't allowed to," she said, loud enough for me to hear. I felt a surge of pure cold rage. It took every ounce of control not to yell at her in front of Lily. I just stared at her, a silent promise in my eyes that this lie would not stand. After the kids were finally in bed, I insisted we talk. We sat in the living room. "Have you rescheduled with David?" she asked casually. "No," I said, my voice firm, "and I won't be. We're going to talk about this." I tried. I explained how uneven things felt, how much I carried, how I needed her to step up, especially with the house and kids. She argued, listing the few things she did. Laundry, she washed, I folded and put away. Feeding the dogs, I prepared the meals, she put the bowl down. Making doctor's appointments, I took them. Grocery shopping. Ordered online. Delivered, I put it away. I pulled out the list I'd mentally compiled. My job, mortgage, bills, insurance, cars, groceries, clothes, activities, dog food, vet bills, car maintenance, house repairs, making lunches, helping with homework, cooking dinner most nights, doing dishes, bath time, getting kids ready in the morning, dealing with school issues, walking, training, enriching the dogs, cleaning up after them, yard work, basic house maintenance, my laundry, my clothes, my car. I laid it out, calmly at first. Her list versus mine. The sheer imbalance was stark when written down. She got up. "I'm going upstairs." "Chloe, we aren't finished." She didn't answer. She walked away. I didn't follow. I didn't want another argument, especially not one that would wake the kids. I saw her shoulders shaking with anger as she went up the stairs. Later, I went up too. She was on the phone, her voice low and angry. When I entered the bedroom, she snapped, "Get out! Go sleep on the couch." "No," I said, and climbed into bed. I was exhausted. My head still throbbed. I wasn't sleeping on that uncomfortable two-seater couch again. She hung up the phone. I said, "Get out! Sleep on the couch!" "No, Chloe." She grabbed my arm, trying to physically drag me out of bed. It was a shock. I pulled away. We struggled briefly, quietly. It wasn't a real fight, more a desperate, angry tussle. But she was determined to make a scene, to escalate until I gave in or the kids woke up. "Fine," I said, the last of my energy draining away. "Fine, I'll go." I grabbed a pillow and headed downstairs. I slept on the couch, my body aching, my mind racing. The weight felt heavier than ever. The next few days were a blur of tension. I stuck to my guns. I stopped folding her laundry. I did mine and the kids. I still cooked for the kids, but when she asked what was for her, I just said, "There's food in the kitchen." It felt petty, maybe, but necessary. A boundary drawn in the sand. Liam, my eldest, is sharp. He knew something was seriously wrong. He started offering to walk the dogs during the day, saying he needed the exercise. I knew he was trying to help, trying to get out of the tense house, maybe. He seemed quieter than usual, distant from his mother. He asked me a few times if I loved him. Each time my heart ached. "More than anything, buddy," I told him, pulling him into a hug. "There's nothing you could ever do to make me not love you." Thursday night. My trip with David was set for Friday. Chloe came downstairs after the kids were in bed. She was dressed differently, softer. "Hey," she said, trying for casual. "Want to have a drink? Talk?" I was wary. The tension hadn't eased, but maybe, just maybe, she was ready to talk. I agreed. We had one drink, just one. But I was so utterly exhausted, physically and emotionally, that it hit me hard. My head felt heavy, my eyelids drooped. She started trying to initiate sex. I wasn't in the mood. Not with the way things were. The secrets I suspected, the fight we'd had, the cold couch I'd slept on. I gently pushed her away. "Chloe, I'm exhausted, and we need to talk, not." She seemed frustrated, pulled away, and went quiet. I drifted off to sleep on the couch again, the one drink making my exhaustion absolute. Friday morning. I woke up with the sun. The house was silent, too silent. I got up, my body stiff from the couch, checked the kids' rooms, they were asleep, checked our bedroom. Empty. Her side of the closet was bare. Her suitcase was gone. A cold dread washed over me. I checked my phone. No message. I called. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No answer. Hours passed. Nothing. Finally, late morning, a single text back. "We'll talk when I get back." She'd gone. Despite everything. Despite the arguments. Despite my trip with David. Despite the absolute state of our marriage. She'd just left. Gone on her 2-week vacation with her friends, leaving me here to manage everything, alone. Fury, hot and sharp, flooded through me. I felt like an idiot, a complete and utter fool. I had been so focused on the injustice, on the trips, that I hadn't seen the bigger picture. She wasn't just lazy or entitled. She was fundamentally deceitful. I went to the bank. I transferred the vast majority of our money from the joint account into a new account in my name only. I left enough in the old one, maybe $500, so she wasn't completely stranded, but I took everything else. The mortgage payment, the utility bills, the kids' school funds, my business savings, all of it. It felt drastic but necessary. A defense. I called David. It was hard to explain, my voice thick with emotion. He listened patiently, then just said, "I'm coming, bringing the kids. Be there Saturday." Saturday morning, David pulled up in his SUV, his 2 nieces and nephew piling out. The house suddenly felt full, noisy, chaotic, but beneath the chaos it felt lighter, more open. The kids seemed relaxed, laughing with their cousins. Even Duke and Bella seemed happier, less anxious. David pulled me aside later. "Okay, tell me everything." I did. The arguments, the imbalance, the sick day, her leaving. I didn't mention the suspicions yet, the cold fear that was starting to take root about the finances, about other things. Not yet. He just listened, his face grim. "Ethan," he said finally, "this is messed up, royally messed up." "I know," I whispered. I think I'm done, David. This marriage, it's over." He nodded. "Good. It should have been a long time ago." He stayed all weekend. His kids kept mine busy. He helped around the house without being asked. He just saw what needed doing. He made me laugh for the first time in weeks. He read some of my posts online, the ones I'd made asking for advice, and couldn't believe what I was going through. "Some people are saying you're enabling her," he said gently. "Maybe," I admitted. "But how do you stop enabling someone who just refuses? Who fights you every step of the way?" "You stop giving them the means," he said. "You cut them off. You protect yourself, and you protect your kids." He was right. My head was clearer with him here. The immediate crisis of her leaving for her trip was replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't going to just let this go. I thought about the comments online, the ones suggesting undiagnosed issues, PPD. I'd tried. I'd gone to her doctor, concerned about her symptoms during pregnancies. She'd shut me down, furious I'd spoken to her doctor like she was a child. She insisted she was fine. She'd seen doctors, she said, and they'd found nothing. I thought about the pregnancies themselves. The first, young and drunk. The second, after celebrating her potential new job. The third, after a friend's wedding. Each one seemed to coincide with a moment where her returning to work was discussed or seemed possible. Was that just coincidence? Or something else? The suspicion I'd felt about her secret income grew stronger. Where was the money coming from? Her hobbies didn't make money. Her friends weren't supporting her. The thought of the OnlyFans, mentioned in some online comments as a potential source of secret income, felt lurid, impossible. But the thought was there, a dark worm in my gut. I felt like an idiot. How could I have been so blind for so long? Working myself into the ground while she, lived a secret life? I needed to know. I needed proof. I couldn't access her phone or iPad, she'd taken them. But there had to be something else. A laptop? Old computer files? Bank statements I might have missed? I knew it was an invasion of privacy. Did I care? Not anymore. My entire life, my family, felt like it was built on a mountain of lies. I had wasted years, my best years, supporting a ghost, a stranger living under my roof. It felt horrible to think that, especially when I looked at my kids, they weren't the waste. The marriage was. The deception was. I knew I couldn't confront her alone when she came back. She could get handsy, as the original post I'd read online put it. I needed David here. I needed support. There was one more thing. My sister-in-law, Sarah, Chloe's older sister. She'd helped with Liam when he was a baby. She'd even offered Chloe a job years ago, the one she'd lost after a month. What really happened there? Chloe always said she was sick, couldn't make it in. But was that the truth? I wanted to ask Sarah, but I didn't want to tip her off. She was Chloe's sister, after all. Her loyalty would likely be with Chloe. How could I ask about a job from years ago without sounding suspicious? It seemed impossible. David and his family stayed for a week. It was chaotic, noisy, but good. It felt like a real family was in the house. When they left, the silence was noticeable. But it wasn't the tense, heavy silence of before. It was just quiet. A different kind of quiet. The kids were still here, of course. My kids. Liam was still withdrawn around any mention of his mother. Maya and Chloe Jr. seemed confused. Lily just missed her mom, asking when she was coming home. My heart ached for them. I started looking, quietly, methodically. I went through Chloe's things in the house. Her desk drawers, old boxes in the attic, files on an old laptop she rarely used. It felt wrong, violating. But the need to know, the icy suspicion, pushed me forward. It took days, sifting through old papers, photos, digital files. Most of it was junk, magazines, old bills, photos of her and her friends. Then I found it, hidden in a folder on the old laptop, disguised as a photo album, a spreadsheet and links. Links to a website and a username. The username was familiar. It was one she'd used for social media years ago. My hands trembled as I clicked the link. It led to a profile page, and there it was. OnlyFans. Chloe. My wife. Earning money. A lot of money, judging by the numbers in the spreadsheet. Earning it in secret. For how long? The dates on the spreadsheet went back years. Years I'd been killing myself, working 2 jobs sometimes, worrying about every single bill, every unexpected expense. Years I'd been told she was exhausted, that she couldn't work. The betrayal felt physical. A punch to the gut. All that sacrifice, all that worry, all that resentment about the unequal burden. And she'd been sitting on a secret income stream, funding her lifestyle, her hobbies, her trips, while I carried the weight of the house, the kids, everything else. The fury I'd felt before was nothing compared to this cold, hard rage, this deep, burning sense of injustice. But the OnlyFans wasn't the only thing. The spreadsheet also had notes, cryptic entries about dates, payments and initials I didn't recognize. And then I saw something else, a folder buried deep in the laptop files, scans of documents, medical reports, no, something else. I clicked. My blood ran cold. Paternity test results, dated years ago, for Maya and Chloe Jr. The world tilted, my breath hitched. I scrolled down, my eyes blurring. The results were clear, the probability of paternity was 0%, 0. For Maya, and for Chloe Jr. it couldn't be. My girls, my beautiful, smart, funny girls, not mine. The thought was like a physical blow, harder than any I'd felt before. It shattered something deep inside me. The years flashed before my eyes, holding them as newborns, their first steps, school plays, comforting them after scraped knees, teaching them to ride bikes, all those moments, built on a lie, and Lily, my youngest. There was no test result for her, but if Maya and Chloe Jr. weren't mine, what about Lily? The dates on the spreadsheet, the initials, they seemed to overlap with the times Lily was conceived. The weight I'd been carrying suddenly felt infinite, not just the weight of providing, but the weight of a life built on a foundation of sand. Financial deception, emotional betrayal, and now this, paternity fraud. It was too much. My chest tightened, a sharp pain shot down my arm, my vision blurred, I gasped for air but couldn't get enough. Panic seized me. This wasn't just stress. This was something else, something serious. I stumbled, clutching my chest. The laptop clattered to the floor, the paternity results flashing on the screen. I needed David. I needed help. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy, numb, dialed David's number. He answered on the second ring. David, I choked out, my voice raspy, barely a whisper. David, something's wrong, chest, can't breathe. Ethan, what's happening, where are you? His voice was sharp with alarm. Home. Maplewood Creek. Need help. That's the last thing I remember saying before the world went black. I woke up to beeping sounds and the smell of antiseptic. A hospital room. White walls, a ceiling tile with a water stain that looked like a map. An IV in my arm. David was sitting beside the bed, his face etched with worry. "Hey, buddy," he said, his voice soft. "You scared the hell out of us." "What happened?" I managed to croak out. "Heart attack," he said, his expression grim. "Stress-induced, they think." "Good thing you called. Good thing I was close enough to get here fast." Heart attack. The weight had finally broken me. As I lay there, weak but alive, the memories flooded back. The OnlyFans, the spreadsheet, the paternity tests. Maya, Chloe Jr., not mine. And Lily. "David," I said, my voice stronger now, the words tumbling out. "There's more. So much more." I told him everything. About the OnlyFans account, the secret money, the years of deception. And then the hardest part. About the paternity tests I'd found. About Maya and Chloe Jr. not being my biological daughters. And the fear about Lily. David listened, silent for a long time. His face went from worried to shock, then to cold fury. "She did what?" he finally said, his voice low and dangerous. "OnlyFans? And the girls?" He ran a hand over his face. "Ethan, I'm so sorry, man. I am so sorry." "I need you to do something for me," I said. "The kids are home. They need someone, and Chloe's parents, Arthur and Eleanor. They need to know. They need to help with the kids while I'm here. And they need to know about Chloe. Everything. David nodded, his jaw set. Consider it done. He called Arthur and Eleanor. They rushed to Maplewood Creek, frantic about the kids and me. David met them at the house, or maybe the hospital lobby, I'm not sure. He told them. All of it. The years of me supporting everyone, the unequal burden, Chloe's secret life, the OnlyFans, the paternity tests. Their reaction, David told me later, was exactly what I'd hoped for, but hadn't dared to expect. Shock, disbelief, then devastating grief for the betrayal against me, and righteous fury at their own daughter. Eleanor was in tears, apologizing to David, to me, through him, for her daughter's actions as if it were her fault. Arthur, a man I'd always respected, was incandescent with rage. That woman, Arthur had apparently said, his voice shaking. After everything Ethan has done for her, for our grandchildren, to do this, to him, to everyone. Chloe returned from her vacation a few days later, tanned and seemingly oblivious to the storm that had broken in Maplewood Creek. She walked into the house expecting, what? To pick up where she left off? To argue about her trip? She was met not by me, but by her parents and David. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Arthur, usually reserved, laid bare everything they knew. Eleanor, heartbroken, added her voice. They didn't shout, David said, not like the arguments Chloe and I had. Their disappointment and anger were colder, heavier. They confronted her with the OnlyFans, the secret money, the paternity tests. Chloe, cornered, tried to deflect, deny, blame me. She claimed I wasn't providing enough, that she had to find a way to make money, that I would have been ashamed if I knew. She even tried to twist the paternity, saying it wasn't her fault. Things happen. But her parents weren't buying it. Not this time. Arthur delivered the ultimatum. She was not staying in this house. The house that Ethan paid for, that he almost died protecting the stability of. She needed to leave. Immediately. Chloe, stripped of her defences and facing the condemnation of her own family, finally folded. Arthur even offered to help her find a place to rent, to help with initial costs, perhaps a last-ditch effort to salvage something, or simply to get her out quickly and with minimal drama for the kids. She agreed. The move out was quick and tense. As she was leaving, gathering the last of her things, the kids were there. Liam, Maya, Chloe Jr., Lily. They were confused, upset. Maya and Liam, old enough to sense the gravity of the situation, asked questions. And Chloe did something else that felt calculatedly cruel. In front of Eleanor, in front of Liam and Maya, she told them, "Your father isn't Maya's real dad, or Chloe Jr.'s, or Lily's." Eleanor gasped, her face turning white. "Chloe, how could you?" she cried, rushing to hug the girls, who looked stunned, hurt and confused. Liam stood frozen, his eyes wide, looking from his mother to me. I was standing nearby, released from the hospital but weak. He knew. He knew about the OnlyFans, or some part of it. He'd walked in on her once, making content in the living room. She'd told him a twisted story about needing the money because I wasn't providing, that I'd be ashamed and hurt if he told me, that it would ruin our marriage. She'd put that burden on his young shoulders. But the paternity? That was a new blow. I stepped forward, ignoring the ache in my chest. "Girls," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Liam, listen to me." I looked at Maya, at Chloe Jr., at Lily. "It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything." I looked at Liam. "You are my son, and you three are my daughters. I am your dad, period. That's all that matters." Eleanor was crying, holding the girls. Arthur looked heartbroken, glaring at Chloe. Chloe herself looked defiant, hurt. I couldn't read her anymore. She left. The house was quiet again, but this time it was a different quiet. Not tense, but empty in places she used to fill, and full in ways she never did. I was recovering. My job was understanding. My boss, bless him, found a way for me to work from home temporarily, a desk job managing inventory and scheduling. It wasn't what I did, but it was work. It paid, and it kept me home with the kids. Arthur and Eleanor were incredible. They came over constantly, helping with the kids, bringing food. Eleanor helped me clear out Chloe's hobby space, the embroidery hoops, the yarn, the jewelry-making supplies. It was like clearing out a ghost. Arthur helped me set up a small office there, a den, a space that was mine. Their support was unexpected, deep, and unwavering. It meant the world. It showed me that family wasn't just blood. It was about who showed up, who stood by you when everything fell apart. Things weren't good, not by a long shot. I was separated. Divorce was coming. The financial fallout was immense. Lawyers figuring out custody, dealing with the hidden income from OnlyFans. My lawyer seemed intrigued by that aspect. The emotional scars ran deep. The betrayal stung with a constant dull ache. The fact that she'd been making thousands in secret while I worked myself sick infuriated me. The paternity, that was the deepest cut. Looking at Maya, Chloe Jr., Lily, knowing the truth while loving them with every fibre of my being. It was a complex, painful tangle of emotions. Liam was still quiet, but he seemed relieved Chloe was gone. He told me bits and pieces of what she'd told him about the OnlyFans, how she'd sworn him to secrecy, the burden she'd placed on him. It made my blood boil all over again. I made sure he knew none of it was his fault, that he was incredibly brave. Maya and Chloe Jr. were processing the paternity revelation in their own ways. We talked about it, gently. I reiterated, over and over, that I was their dad, that biology didn't define our family. It was hard, for all of us. Lily at 6 was too young to understand. She just knew Mommy wasn't here, and things felt different. We'd tell her eventually, when she was older. I was a mess of emotions, ashamed, humiliated, embarrassed by the deception, angry at Chloe, relieved that the tension was gone, heartbroken over the lies, grateful for the support of David, Arthur, and Eleanor, and terrified sometimes of the future. But mostly, I was just tired and determined. Determined to get through this, for my kids, for Duke and Bella, who seemed to patrol the house with a new sense of calm, for myself. The weight was still there, the weight of the unseen lies that had shaped my life, but now it was exposed. It could be dealt with. It was no longer hidden, silently crushing me. I was still carrying a heavy load, being a single dad, rebuilding my business, navigating divorce, healing from a heart attack. But it was an honest weight, one I could see, understand, and face head-on, and I wasn't facing it alone. The road ahead was long, filled with challenges and painful conversations, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was walking towards something real, towards a future built not on secrets and lies, but on truth, love, and the messy, complicated reality of a family redefined. Months turned into a year. The divorce was finalized. It was messy, as expected. The OnlyFans income became a major point of contention. Chloe fought for alimony, for a share of my business, for custody. My lawyer was relentless. We presented the evidence of her secret income, the years she hadn't contributed financially while I carried everything, the paternity test results, her manipulative behavior towards the children. Arthur and Eleanor provided affidavits supporting my character and detailing Chloe's actions and their own condemnation of her behavior. It was painful, airing all our dirty laundry in court. In the end, the judge saw the reality of the situation. Chloe received minimal alimony, a small portion of assets, but nowhere near what she'd demanded. Custody was split, but with significant restrictions on her time, especially initially, and contingent on her providing a stable environment. The judge was particularly unimpressed by the OnlyFans deception and her revealing the paternity to the older kids in a cruel manner. The house remained mine. It was a financial strain, but it was home. My home. The kids' home. Dealing with the aftermath was harder than the legal battle. The emotional recovery from the heart attack was slow. The doctors told me stress was a major factor. I had to learn to manage it, to prioritize my health. David was a constant presence, calling, visiting, just being there. Arthur and Eleanor continued to be incredibly supportive, helping with childcare, offering emotional support. They were grieving too, grieving the loss of the daughter they thought they knew, grieving the broken family. Their presence was a balm, a reminder that not all family ties broke under pressure. The kids. That was the hardest and most important part. Liam, my son, was a rock. He was quiet, processing everything, but his loyalty to me was unwavering. He started working part-time at my shop after school, learning the trade, wanting to help. It warmed my heart. We talked, slowly, about his mom, about the burden she'd put on him. He was angry, hurt by her lies and manipulation. He understood, in a way no child should have to, the depth of her betrayal. Maya, at 15, was confused and angry. Angry at her mother for lying, angry at me for, she wasn't sure what, maybe for the disruption, maybe for the truth itself. She struggled with the paternity revelation. "So, he's my real dad, somewhere?" she'd asked once, tears in her eyes. It broke my heart. I explained what little I knew from the documents I'd found, just initials, no names. I told her that if she ever wanted to try and find him when she was older, I would support her. But I also reinforced constantly that I was her dad. That love, not biology, made a family. It was a delicate balance. Our relationship was strained for a while, but with time and patience it began to heal. She saw my effort, my unwavering presence. Chloe Jr., 11, was less outwardly angry, but more withdrawn. She didn't talk about it much, the paternity or her mom's secrets. She just seemed sadder. I made an extra effort to spend one-on-one time with her, doing things she loved, reading with her, just being present, reassuring her that she was loved, safe, and wanted, that nothing that happened was her fault. Lily, 7 now, still didn't know about the paternity. She knew Mommy lived somewhere else, that things were different. She missed Chloe sometimes, especially at bedtime. I tucked her in, read her stories, held her close. The truth about her biological father was a conversation for another day, another year. For now, she just needed to feel loved and secure. I learned to cook better. Not Gordon Ramsay, but edible, even sometimes enjoyable meals. The house wasn't spotless, but it was clean enough, lived in. Liam helped more around the house, not because I asked, but because he saw what needed doing. Maya and Chloe Jr. took responsibility for their rooms and shared bathroom. We found a new rhythm, a new normal. It was challenging, exhausting in a different way, but it felt authentic. There were no hidden secrets, no underlying resentments about unequal burdens. It was just us, figuring things out. Chloe visited the kids according to the custody schedule. The visits were often tense. She didn't seem to have changed much, still self-centered, still struggling with basic responsibilities. The kids would come back quiet, sometimes upset. It was hard, seeing them navigate that. But they always seemed relieved to be home. The dogs, Duke and Bella, were noticeably calmer. They seemed to thrive in the less tense environment. They were my loyal shadows, my furry therapists. Their presence, their simple needs, were a grounding force. There were still moments of overwhelming sadness, of anger so potent it felt like it could trigger another heart attack. Seeing a family walking together in the park, a couple sharing a joke at the grocery store, it would sometimes hit me. The life I thought I had, the future I'd planned was gone, replaced by this unexpected, difficult reality. I'd wasted so much time, so much energy on a lie. But then I would look at my kids. All 4 of them. Liam, growing into a fine young man. Maya, navigating the complexities of being a teenager, smart and resilient. Chloe Jr., quiet but observant, with a kind heart. And Lily, still full of innocent joy and laughter. They were my world. Biological or not, they were mine. I had raised them, loved them, provided for them, been there for them. That bond, that history was real. It was the only truth that mattered. I was still working hard. The business was steady, but the financial pressure was constant. But I wasn't working under the weight of deception anymore. I was working for a future I could see, a future built on honesty and genuine connection. I hadn't spoken to Chloe directly since the initial confrontations and legal proceedings, only through lawyers or brief, necessary exchanges during kid handoffs. There was nothing left to say. The betrayal was too deep. The pain was too real. I was healing, slowly. The scars were permanent, but they were fading. The weight was still there. Yes, the weight of responsibility, the weight of the past, the weight of the truth. But it was a weight I could bear, because now it was my weight, not hers, and I wasn't alone in carrying it. I had David, my brother. I had Arthur and Eleanor, my former in-laws, now something like family in a new, unexpected way. And I had my kids, my beautiful, complicated, wonderful kids. Life in Maplewood Creek went on. The seasons changed. The oak leaves turned gold and red, then fell. Snow covered the ground. Spring arrived, green and hopeful. Summer returned, hot and humid, and I kept going. One day at a time. Working, parenting, healing, carrying the weight, but standing tall, because that's what dads do. That's what you do when the life you built is shattered, but the love remains. You pick up the pieces, and you keep building.